Today is Wednesday, January 15th. Call this meeting of the New Shoreham Town Council to order. Today, did I say that? Wednesday, January 15th? Can I have a motion to go into closed session? Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by
Aye.
saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We're in closed. Hey, David. Good. How are you? Hello, Chief. Sorry to keep you for extra time here. Hello, everybody. Reconvening the open session. We actually only dealt with item number one in our closed session, and no votes were taken. Can I have a motion to seal the minutes, please? There's a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Is there any public comment tonight? Hi, Chris. Welcome. Good to see you. Made a mistake. I was remiss. I didn't come to the meeting.
Yes, you were missed.
Hunting game.
Yes.
Oh, I was remiss. In usual fashion, the Black Mountain Times has reported that hunting at Dean's.
We've been hunting out, the Fish and Wildlife Service opened that November 1st. So the deer population out there is down. But anyway, in all the years that we've opened up Lot 20, which is the town land for hunting, we've never opened it up until the waterfowl season closes. And this year, the waterfowl season, I would have brought that date with me. The waterfowl season closes on January 26th. So I'm going to beg the council to change the opening date. You're only going to lose 4 days because Martin Luther King holiday takes 1 day out of next week. Everyone thinks waterfowl hunting camouflage, but I wore this jacket to show you when it gets cold most of the time, brown cotton duck overalls and coat. Not a good color to go waterfowl hunting in when deer season's open. I got to tell you. So, and there are more waterfowl hunters out here. You know, it's one of the last places you can go and waterfowl hunt without going through complaints, and you know, it's pretty much open.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's much of a loss. I really don't think there are many deer out there now. And the way everything's frozen up, the marsh is a really good place. What I refer to it as the marsh is a really good place to waterfowl hunt right now because there's open water because of the
Right.
tides.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Thank you, Chris.
thank
Thank
please.
you. Any other public comment? Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I should hold this until item 6E1, which refers to the sanctuary city correspondence. Should I do that now?
So we usually just acknowledge correspondence, but why don't you do your thing during the public comment, Mary? If you don't mind. Thank you very much.
Very short, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And I totally am pleased to be able to be here today and to address this to the town council. And the question is, why do I think New Shoreham Town Council ought to discuss a resolution considering Block Island as a sanctuary township? Block Island's undocumented immigrant community has developed a mutually supportive relationship with the documented island community. Becoming a sanctuary town would protect and strengthen this beneficial relationship and strengthen our community as a whole. There is little risk in losing federal monies, as in many ways our community takes care of itself. With its history as a haven for striving, independent, and productive people, Block Island could remain faithful to its heritage as a courageous, intelligent, rational, and hopeful place for strong believers in freedom and self-governing democracy. By voicing support of existing resident working households, Block Island will maintain school enrollments, facility and home maintenance, landscaping and construction employment. At the very least, all residents need to know their legal rights will be respected regarding detention and deportation. Now is not the time to further deplete Block Island's human capital. And I thank you very much for listening. And I have some supplementary material with regard to references and statistics on the island. I'd be happy to see.
Terrific.
Even the million children.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Consent agenda. Bill, just one thing. Do you want us to for the company for the dredging? Okay, that's great. I just wanted to point it. I saw it. I thought, oh shoot, do I have to do anything? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Abstain.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. So the record will show that, Millie, for Bill's benefit. Now we have to set a public hearing date for a new ordinance that came to us from planning regarding tent, trailer, and shipping containers. What's the date, Millie?
February 19th.
February 19th.
Motion to set the public hearing.
There a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying.
Is that school vacation?
I was going to ask that. Do we usually, we used to try to avoid public hearings and because a lot of people were gone that week, but is that,
Yeah, you're welcome to change the date on that.
I mean, are we all
Yeah,
going to?
I'm not gonna,
I'm not
the school
involved.
thing doesn't, I just didn't know if it affects, you're closer to a lot of people to school. Molly, do you think it would be an issue or? So school vacation, do you think that,
It's
we should
the
have the hearing
President's Week is the
President's Week?
20th
Will
and
will the island be emptied out or? Probably.
so we're all going to be here? I mean,
I'm gonna be.
I'll be here.
David, are you going away for school vacation?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm good with the date myself. I just.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know who we're accommodating. I mean, if we're accommodating people, I'm gonna
I guess
accommodate
not.
the
Let's
people
put
who
it
show
down.
up.
You know what, if,
Yeah.
if we get people saying, oh my goodness, I really want to go
We
to that
can
public
change it.
hearing, we'll
Yeah.
change, we can continue it. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
I,
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Item 8, discuss and act on board, commission, and committees. Now we're trying to get in the middle of the.
Yeah. Nothing seems to impact the
No.
response.
I would point out, coastal resilience, that one has not been on for long. Building committee for the public safety complex. So this is very timely. We have a significant, federal grant, that is, on the table. So the planning for this, as Amy's been working on it is important.
I think we're hoping to start meeting next week, so
So please,
come join us. One more spot.
yes, one more spot. You're
Or
gonna.
just come as a member of the public. We are
Yes,
Open meetings.
Absolutely, yes. All right, item 9, continued item, discuss and act on the Transportation Safety Committee resolution. Nancy?
Okay, so there had been a resolution that was put together by the prior council for in support of a transportation safety committee. I had suggested that in the past, we always, when we created a committee, we would create the committee, we'd give them a charge, and we never went through the process of a formal resolution or anything. I did point out to Keith that, I don't know how the rest of you feel. I thought it was a little bit, the resolution was a little bit too focused on mopeds. And what we had talked about doing with the Transportation Safety Committee was to add in the various types of transportation that we've got here now. We've got scooters, we've got electric bikes, we've got manual bikes, we've got manual scooters, and we also have the electric golf carts out in the, so I was suggesting that we do away with the resolution, just set up a committee and give it a charge. And I had a suggestion for the charge if the council wants to go that way. Open to
So
people's feeling.
I actually, I did the initial draft of this, and it actually was drafted specifically not to be solely about mopeds. It says, compelling data and anecdotal observation make clear that crowding, accidents, and injuries associated with the range of vehicles, bicycles, scooters, mopeds, electric bicycles, electric scooters, etc., demonstrate a need to reset the community's attitude and approach to the public health and safety implications of the increasing volume of vehicular traffic.
Yeah, I
Go
actually,
down to the second whereas though, whereas a focus on straightforward changes, including requiring adequate footwear for rental mopeds and
And
bicycles,
bicycles, yeah.
ensuring proper fitting of helmets, ensuring adequate testing of those that choose to rent bicycles and mopeds occurs safely and is conducted in a way that does not interfere with traffic
Where's-
flow, et cetera. That's the piece that I thought was a little too focused, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
turn anybody away in the general conversation. that
She
we
said
were gonna
second,
have. We're
okay.
Trying to get people to the table to cooperate.
I don't see how, those are the things that are a problem. You know,
Not-
you know what I mean? The rental bicycles, and mopeds, all that list of vehicles. I'm comfortable with this.
I appreciate the work that Keith's put into this. My only question is, why are do we usually do resolutions for committees? I don't know, is there,
I think we have done them. It's what the council decided to do.
Whatever you guys want to do. I was hoping that we could make it broad enough so that people would come to the table and we could have a conversation. And I didn't want it to be viewed as one more step vis-a-vis just mopeds, because our traffic situation involves a great many more things these days.
I agree with that. That's why the draft was so broad that the council approved.
I actually felt like the missing component was rental cars, but, I feel like the feedback that we get from the public is that mopeds are their largest problem. So what I hear about from the public is more, although increasingly scooters
Yeah.
and, all those little electric one-wheeled and two-wheeled and even three-wheeled vehicles that people drive with no helmet and cut in and out of traffic and, so I don't know, I'm feeling like the document is reflecting what I hear from the public. I just feel like it's missing rental cars.
Amy, I'm trying to find the email that I put together the draft charge and
Have it here.
yeah, if I could just read it. Give you that. Oops. Sorry about that. To examine the various vehicles on our roads, including mopeds, bicycles, electric and manual, scooters, electric and manual, and electric golf carts, with emphasis on traffic flow, safety, and demand, and recommend any actions to enhance safety and regulate congestion, particularly in the downtown area. That was the charge that I was thinking of supplanting the resolution with, but
Why don't we adopt that charge and give it to the group that is formed pursuant to this resolution? Because I'm not offended by that.
I'm also not opposed to that
I,
wording.
I don't understand the difference between the resolution and the thing. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, we can always expand a charge, correct?
Yeah, so why don't we sort of say it's the consensus of the council that this will be the charge that'll be read
okay.
at the first meeting of this group. Does it have rental cars in it?
No, I mean, rental car, we can't expand rental cars now.
Someone is. No.
They're limited to what exists right now. It's prohibited to expand rental cars, so I'm not sure.
Yes, so I think unofficially they've been expanded.
Well,
I think that was
well,
the issue
and-
we were dealing with last summer was that, yeah, and I feel like at a meeting we had recently, one of our license holders told us they were renting cars and they don't have a rental car I think rental cars are an issue.
But is that an enforcement issue or a study issue? You know, I don't know.
I feel like if we're about to enable a committee that is going to deal with the traffic on our roads and how our roads are being populated, that should be in there.
Chief, can I just ask you one question? The electric vehicle golf cart, what is actually that classification? Is that car? So that needs to be in this as well.
Yep, it
It
is.
is.
And
It's
is it touched
in
on
the
there?
resolution and it's in the chart.
What-
Okay.
But see, Tristan, I would also say that that goes a little bit towards rental cars. We have the ones that people are seeing on the road so frequently are rentals. Right? So there are certainly some privately owned electric golf carts out here, but they aren't the ones that you're hearing about or that I'm hearing about from the general public, I don't think.
Well, there's a statute that regulates the electric golf carts, correct?
There is.
Yeah, and
Yes.
the towns, municipalities can ban them or allow them. Is
On
that-
the roads that we control. So
Right.
many of our
And
roads are.
and there's a,
state roads.
and there's a, it's just can't ban them because we don't want them. Has to be a safety issue and so forth to it.
Right, and at 25 miles an hour is the maximum, right? So it would, they would all work on our roads right now.
I did not have a sense that we had a great deal of flexibility or.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that fair, chief?
Yeah. yeah, exactly. So,
Can you put rental cars in the charge?
sure.
We square?
Is that what this is?
You can't read my handwriting. It's better than Tom Workups because he's a, he's a doctor. Oh, right. It says rental cars, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes.
You're much more legible. Rental cars, okay.
All righty.
So and then as far as appointing people, I was suggesting only the resolution had a group. I thought that the medical center didn't necessarily need to sit through all of these meetings, and I didn't want to burden them with having to come to all those meetings. I thought they have information that they could certainly be asked to provide and come at special times rather than have to come to every meeting and sit there. I had included the police chief, sorry, Paul, the rescue squad captain or designee, or the police chief's designee, really, moped license holders, bicycle rental owners, maybe 2 council members, and potentially a representative of the business community, just in general. But again, there's no pride of authorship there, so chime in, anybody who.
Although I would question if we're not focusing on the mopeds, why do we need to have a moped license holder on that committee?
Oh, I was thinking all of them. The more we can get, because they're also, a lot of them are bicycle rental people too.
Okay, but I mean, I think that makes it a totally different committee.
You wouldn't have them?
I didn't say I wouldn't have them. I'm just saying you contradicted yourself in saying that you had a problem that you felt like Keith was making this a moped centric issue, and now you want to have all the moped representatives on the board.
I don't think we're gonna get all of them. I was hoping out of them, we could get 1 or 2, but you have said that's one of the bigger concerns.
It's what I hear about. I don't think that we should make the board moped centric.
No,
I agree with Nancy. You should certainly invite them to the table. The moped operators.
Tom, what do you think about, sorry to put you on the spot, about the medical center being on a committee like this?
I certainly think we can provide the data that Nancy brings up. And in 2024, mopeds were 4 times more accidents than bicycles. So we have all the data that we can share throughout 2000. We have e-bikes, scooters. I think it'll be helpful and informative to the committee.
So, but I guess the question is, do you want to have a member sitting on the committee, or you just want to respond? The committee can turn to the rescue, to the medical center to ask for your data and maybe come to a meeting or two.
I think that'd be preferential. Yeah, ad hoc, we can be there. We're happy to provide the data up front to just help inform the conversation, at least from our perspective, and
Yeah.
then come and give some feedback if anybody would be interested.
Great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was nothing personal. I just didn't
No.
want to burden you folks with having
Appreciate
to.
that. No, appreciate
Yes.
that. Sure, we can share the data.
Okay,
I think the bottom line is we don't want this to be an adversarial board. We want to
Yes.
Yeah.
get people that are working together, regardless of who is on it, I think that's
That's,
the,
and that's why I sort
Yeah.
of tried to draft it the way that I did,
Yeah.
because I'm,
And,
however-
and that is why I'm disagreeing with Nancy saying that she wants to have a member of
Right.
every moped rental agency on there. That to me doesn't, that creates an adversarial board. I think the way that this is written right now is perfectly fine, where it says license holders for rental vehicles and bicycles.
So we won't invite the medical center, but you'll stand by for data. I don't know,
well, let's just test it. Let me make a motion to insert take the resolution, insert the charge as the charge that will be given to the committee when it's established, and that the committee will be made up of the police chief or his designee, the rescue squad captain or his designee, moped license holders, bicycle rental owners, 2 council members, and a representative of the business community, and ask people to apply. Can I get a second for that?
Yes.
or-
That's your
I
motion?
would
I'll
prefer
second
if
it.
we stick with the language of rental vehicles rather than mopeds, because there's a lot of different vehicles being rented. And that includes mopeds.
In where the people that we appoint,
Mhm.
so you want to appoint,
right now it says license holders for rental vehicles and bicycles.
yeah, you want to amend it and add that as for the appointment,
It's already in here.
but that's the resolution.
Yeah.
I didn't use the language from the resolution for the appointment. See, mine was different. That,
So we have a motion on the table.
Tristan, did you second?
I
that?
did.
But if we can just resolve this by consensus, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. So license holders for rental vehicles and bicycles instead of bicycle rental owners. So license,
And
so it would be the police chief or designee, the rescue squad captain or designee, moped license holders,
it
license.
doesn't say it just says license holders for rental vehicles and bicycles is what the underlying resolution says.
I know, but I have changed it to moped license holders, and I would add, as Molly wants, license holders for rental vehicles, meaning cars.
No, that's not what I said. But I'm reading what we have on Clerk Base. I
Right.
think you're reading something different. So
I am.
I think we're talking about two separate things.
So how about if we did moped license
what
holders,
Tom
license
said,
holders
so
for
that,
rental
yeah.
cars and bicycles?
Two members of the council.
Two members of
and
the
someone
council
from
and a
the business
representative of the
community.
business community.
That-
Okay, I'll amend my motion to do the appointments for the police chief or designee, rescue squad captain or designee, moped license holders for rental cars and bicycles, two council members and a representative of the business community.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no.
No,
Ayes have it.
Okay.
All
And
right.
can we somehow put it out there on our,
You and I are gonna do a letter to the Block Island Times describing
again.
what we're doing and asking for people to.
absolutely.
Right here.
Got it.
Let's see, what do we have next? Continued item, discuss and act on approval of the agreement between the Town of East Shoreham and Mayforth Group for lobbyist services and the appointment of town lobbyists Rick McAuliffe and Jeffrey Taylor of Mayforth Group. Right?
I had asked Keith if we could put this over to this meeting. I have a couple of comments, but I want to preface this with, I think both Rick and Jeff are, they're very professional, and I think my words aren't a reflection of the ability of their group. So it's more about the process and what our needs are. To that is, I feel like the current contract that's being proposed, it's 54,000, so it's per month for 12 months. And I think what we need to do as a council is we need to look at our legislative needs, identify what those are. Once we identify those, and some of those needs may be low-hanging fruit, that, what legislation we're putting in or not putting in and so forth, and identify of that, do we need a lobbyist in order to carry us through? We have representatives and the Senate and the state representative that also look at our legislative needs also. But I think that we kind of got the cart before the horse. I know we have a meeting next, the 21st, is it? Tuesday. And I think, after that meeting, we're going to have an idea, what are we putting forward or not putting forward legislation wise? So I think if we understand what those needs are, then we can say, okay, what do we need to attack that plan? So I kind of like to see us identify our legislative needs and then look to see what we need to implement in order to achieve those.
to move this to Tuesday's agenda?
If we moved it to Tuesday's agenda, we could move it after, once we have, I think we need to talk about our legislative needs. So if it was moved to Tuesday, it's fine, as long as it was, in the agenda after we've identified what we need.
Or do you think it would make more sense to go further out?
I think hearing from more of the council would be helpful. What I'm hearing Bill describe is identifying what we would want them to do over the next 12 months. And I guess I do have a concern about whether we can identify all of that clearly in one session. My concern is that we keep perpetuating, putting it off, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the council first.
And if I could, I don't think that that's what Bill was saying. Not identifying what we want them to do, but identifying what we think we might want to accomplish or push for over this next session. And then see if that would require a consulting group, or whether it's something that we can handle in-house or with our own legislative members or our congressional delegation. I mean, one of the things we did honestly talk about with the Mayforth group when they were here was that with a $300 million deficit for the state and what's going to be going on in Washington, we're not really expecting any great earmarks out of the congressional delegation this year. So maybe this is the time that we should start thinking about what we really do need and what we could accomplish this year. I think it's a good idea to just put it off till Tuesday, talk about that, and then see what we decide we need. We may decide that we do need some help from them, and it may be that this is the one year where, $54,000 is not where we want to spend the money.
Although the governor did say last night, roads, he wants to put a lot of money into roads.
That's for sure. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Counselor Dodge and McComb. I would also like to table that just simply because we haven't identified what we're after. And also, I think there's a lot of things that we can do in-house from previous discussions with the group. So I'd like to see what can be done here and see if it's worth executing this contract with the May 4th group. So that's my motion to table this current contract.
So I think the motion might be to continue this to our
Continue.
meeting on the 21st. You have time under,
Motion to the 21st?
is there a second? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. All righty.
Keith, I just want to state one more time with that, that's really based on what I think our needs are, not their performance.
We'll, we'll talk about it next
Yeah.
week. That's,
I know,
that's
I
fine.
just,
Yeah,
that's important.
of course. Discuss and act on a resolution of support, in support of legislation. I did see did I see a resolution here or just the act?
There is a resolution.
Is there, did I not scroll down far enough? Oh, great. All right. So as the agenda indicates, this resolution is from the town council to the General Assembly to enact legislation to serve as the enabling act required by Rhode Island general law for 10.4 million bonds of the town to finance additions, renovations, improvements, alterations, and repairs to schools and school facilities in the town. And this is a thing that we have to do.
This is the thing we have to do. Yes. This is an administrative requirement. It should not have any trouble getting through the General Assembly, but it does enable us to receive reimbursement, not just on the principal of our school bonds, but for the interest as well.
Right.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
how many do you want us to sign? All three?
All righty. Discuss and act on negotiations between the town and the Rhode Island DOT. Is that where we are? Did I skip one? No.
Nope, that's where we are.
Mike, I don't know if it's you or Amy or.
I'll start, but Mike is
Great.
here and Jim is here with us as
Oh,
well.
terrific. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
So as most of you know, at this point, we've touched on this a few times. The previous 10-year agreement with the DOT for management of the state roads expired in June of 2024. Marianne and DOT had been negotiating and settled on terms that were essentially almost identical to the prior agreement. There were two material changes. One is an increase in the price. The annual payment from the state to the town increased from $425,000 to $500,000. And the second was some provisions around the repair and installation of guardrails. Those were essentially the two changes that came through. We did get a copy that was signed by DOT in late December. So that's what you have in the packet today. It represents what was negotiated previously. By sending over an executed copy by DOT, it suggests that they think that we're done and are ready to move forward with this. I will say individually and collectively, Mike and I both have some concerns about moving forward or how to move forward, in that we don't feel that the agreement does enough to acknowledge the capital work that
Yep.
hasn't been performed by DOT over the course of now 2 renewals, almost 20 years. Some of the things that the town had asked for that were not incorporated include some commitments on delivering on those capital items that didn't make it into the final agreement. One of the other things we asked for was that the town be indemnified against any violations that might relate to environmental conditions related to storage of salt or any safety issues at the building, since those are failures of DOT to maintain. We had asked for that, and that wasn't incorporated. And one of the other big but sort of emotional aspects was a request that they commit to coming out once a year and do an annual visit. And that language also didn't make it into the final version. So just to give you a sense of what things were on the table that the town had put forward that didn't make it into the final.
Amy, when you said were these things that you had added to this, or was this with Mary Ann?
No, these were all done previously.
And do you have the, do you feel that you would be comfortable sitting down and, you know, I don't know where this is and how far along the line it is.
And that's why I say by delivering a signed version to us in December, again, it's something that transitioned between managers that indicates that they're done. And so I think there are 2 paths open to the town at this point. One would be to not execute the agreement and send it back. That feels a little bit aggressive, given that I think those negotiations did happen in good faith. And this is the product of that. And it doesn't acknowledge that we are still actively engaged in maintaining the roads. Even though there's not an agreement in place, we're doing that work, and we're keeping up our end of the bargain. So I'll actually give Jim credit for this idea, who suggested another path forward could be execute the agreement, put everything in place, and then put the state on notice that if they don't live up to certain commitments, particularly around the capital, we have the ability to terminate the agreement with 12 months notice. And so, yes, we've executed it, and here are our expectations. We need to decide exactly what those are and what the timeframes are, but that failure to deliver or show meaningful progress on those would lead the town to then give the state notice about our intent to terminate.
Okay.
I like how they do address the salt shed. I read through it, but they have that caveat that says subject to funding.
And that's the exact same language that was in the 14 agreement.
Right.
So word for word.
Which is a problem.
So the,
Any commitments, firm commitments around capital, particularly specific to the building, but we would extend that to capital for the roads themselves as well.
Can I
yeah,
ask
please.
something? Have we also considered the possibility that you're not Mary Ann, you're now the interim manager, that it would be an appropriate time to contact them and say, you know, we realize that you've sent this. However, we're under, you know, some changes around here, and we have some questions, and we'd like to sit down and, you know, and discuss this again and not treat it as completely done and see what response we get.
And I was reluctant to do that without feedback from the council first, because I do know from the correspondence and some of the conversations that both Mike and I were in, that these requests were put forward by the town. You know, there was a good effort to represent our interests, but I wasn't specifically in the room to know how things fleshed out. So I don't think it was a lack of intent and effort on the part of the town to get this done. The language, particularly around commitments to capital, has been pretty generic in the emails back and forth. We can't make commitments beyond our appropriated budget. That's above this. So, you know, I say I'd be reluctant to just say, no, we're not going to sign it.
Yeah.
We need to start over. I don't know
Mhm.
that that will get us that far. Am I definitely willing to go back to DOT and say, these are our expectations and these are the things that have not been addressed. There is a little bit of room in that they didn't send back the lease agreement
Oh,
for the
that was-
building, which is an addendum to that state road agreement. So it's actually not clear whether there's room to do a little bit more negotiation all around that as well. So I think there's a little bit more space, but I'm not willing to say that I can deliver an entirely different results.
No, no.
Going through the same.
No,
process.
No, but-
that wouldn't be anybody's
but
expectation, Amy.
particularly because we don't have the lease back. I mean, that's another point that, they've always been signed in tandem. So it seems to me it'd be worth it to get in touch and say, hey, we haven't gotten a copy of the lease back. That's the most critical point of discussion for us. And we need to talk about that. And by the way, the salt storage has been waiting for 20 years and you haven't gotten around to it yet. But in particular, the building is falling apart. So, can we at least have that conversation? Because we'd like to move this forward. Also,
Do you think their failure to send the lease is sort of a acknowledgement on their end that that isn't a building that should be leased?
I think that's an interesting
That's a
question.
really good question.
I think that is a very good question.
And I
I mean,
was,
there's so much legal liability with the condition of
That's-
that building that,
Yeah.
is that why we're not getting a lease? And like, and where do we fall? Like, if the front of that building gives out and the whole thing topples down and we don't have a lease, I don't know, like, where do we fall liability wise on that?
I think those are great questions.
yeah.
well,
I-
but it is, it's the state building.
It's a state building.
Yeah, so if it collapses,
It's
and
theirs.
anybody gets hurt, it's a liability on the state.
I mean, I'm going to say the road crew is doing an excellent job of holding it up with cement blocks,
Yeah.
but that isn't how
It's not acceptable.
buildings are meant to be held together.
So this bleeds over a little bit into next week's conversation, but to me, it's essential that we have a comprehensive strategy to deal with this and sort of, frankly, get to that fish or cut bait moment and see where the state is. And I think that involves our briefing in detail our legislators who are more than happy to, bite at DOT's ankles. I think any time my experience with them has been that they're incredibly responsive. But I do think it requires sort of mapping out of a strategy of how we're going to take this on, because it's I've only been on the council for a few years, but the challenges are the same every time we talk about it. So,
So I think what I'm hearing from the council is that there's sort of a little bit of a blessing to be firm and work as hard as we need to towards resolution. Is that fair to say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy
Jim?
to be firm. I'm also happy to bring them all sandwiches, have lunch with them and say,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be adversarial, but
And
it's
I'm not
starting
looking
to
to be,
feel like that.
not looking to be adversarial, but
Yeah.
I think.
I'd like
sort
to
of-
give you the lead way to explore that. I mean,
Yeah.
Is the best way to
100%.
handle that? I mean, obviously, it's really up to you. Kind of, how you go forward with this, but like, do we say we're not signing one without the other, or?
Let me give one more go round for on the lease portion, which again is supposed to be an exhibit to the primary document. And see what their reaction is to that.
Would you like us to endorse this resolution as a council? Would that, or would you like us to wait?
No, I think waiting is fine.
Okay. I wasn't advocating one way or the other. I wasn't sure what.
I felt like it
what you
was
felt gave you arrows in your quiver.
important to have an initial conversation with the council on direction and also sort of convey to the public exactly where we are in that relationship.
I also wonder, Mike, do you know when the last time they came out in person? I mean, have they seen the building? I'm sure they've
Yeah.
seen many pictures from you of it, but like, have they been out to,
I'm gonna say maybe a half dozen times over the past 10, 15 years. They've taken tours around the island. I've showed them everything. They've all been through the building. They've had their own engineers assess the building.
do we really need to have engineers assess that building?
Well, it's a group that assesses all their state buildings. And,
Okay.
So there's reports out there. Everyone's very much aware. Our representatives have seen the building. Yeah, it's been out there. The one thing when Nancy was town manager, I recall that, we'd invite them out, for just that, tours around the building, the roads and all that sort of thing. And as soon as they'd step off the boat, it would be, no, we don't have the money. We can't do this. We can't do that. And it's just pretty much continued. This last time when we were promised
Yeah.
the 20 million or something
Yep.
to start moving forward, it was the first time where you felt great. Something is
remember you
actually
saying
going to
that, yeah.
happen. And then
Mhm.
the rug was pulled out. So, but they're all very much aware of what it's like.
And there's the agreement referred to a list of equipment that was supposed to be attached to. Do we have that?
It's also non-attached.
Yeah. And there
Like-
was a provision, is this a change that they said that, they'd pay whatever we had to buy, they would pay 80% of that for 5 years as opposed to for the duration? Then the additional 5 years, you have to go to the state and get an okay before they'll
I
reimburse you.
believe so. When we bought the new plow trucks,
Yeah,
they took care of 80% of that.
80%.
Yeah.
But I didn't think there was
That's
the time limit, like only in the first 5 years of this agreement would we do this automatically and then
I
after
don't
that.
recall that in the first one.
Yeah.
The second one, it was there.
I mean, there's still the provision for the additional 5 years. It just seemed like a, typical comment, but that's not as important
not,
as just
yeah.
making.
Basically, all their equipment is gone. We've sent it back off island
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah,
So the stuff that we have is now the towns.
the towns.
We have two trucks that are still owned by the state. One is an '06 pickup, and then the other one is a 1954 Power Wagon.
Oh, we still have that.
Yeah. Everything else is pretty much ours.
So the list of equipment that they were going to provide and the lease are the two things that we don't have in hand.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned really about the equipment list in that it's, every version I've seen has been outdated. So,
We'd rather not have their equipment.
Yeah,
Oh, they want to give us old equipment.
yeah, yes. Old.
Yes, that's what we were left with, was very old.
That's great. What a great
Unusable.
idea.
We'll do better with our own.
Jim, anything we missed?
Maddening.
Can we just-
No, the one thing I
Yes.
do want to mention, Nancy and I remember when Nancy and I first wrote this, or worked on this agreement many years ago. But one of the things that about 3 years ago, DOT came to the island. The town manager, the police chief, Mike, myself, we took an entire tour of the island. At that point, we had a good feeling that they were going to do something. And Pam Carter at DOT is the head person who's been kind of moving this along. We're trying to work with her on this, but when it gets to budgetary and budget process, we're the smallest place. We only have 16 miles of state road, and we don't get a lot of funding for it. Just to give you an idea, I haven't been able to get a hold of the report that DOT did on the building, because I think that's extremely critical. Every time I call to get a copy, I say, yeah, they'll get it to me, but I don't get it. I did get the 2024 assessment of the roads. And just to give the council a general idea, there's 16 and a half miles plus or minus of state roads. of which 40% of the roads are classified as poor. 50% is fair, and then only 6% are in good conditions. So we really need to focus on the roadway improvements. We've got the building and salt shed, that has to be done, but the roads have been, haven't been touched in many, many years. So this year, there's a TIP program that's coming out again that Mike, myself, and Amy will put together before the council and because of the size of the community, we can put 5 projects on there. And my recommendation, or our recommendation, is going to be, we're going to take the salt shed is going to be one of them, number one, and then we'll take the 4 worst roads in town and put that on the tip. Last time the tip went out, the town council put on their sidewalks on Corn Neck Road and sidewalks on Chapel Street. First of all, I don't know how we're going to put sidewalks on Chapel Street, but that being said, I think we got to focus on these roads. The roads and drainage are really an issue. And we have to address those. If we don't, at some point in time, if the drainage fails, we're going to get roadway flooding. In the wintertime, we'll get icing, accidents will occur. None of the guardrails on the island meet the current guardrail standards. They're too low and they don't meet the standards. We need to move on those things. That's safety for the public. They can do all of the car counts that they want. Let them sit there in the middle of summer and tell me we don't have enough traffic on those roads. So, just to kind of touch on adding on to what this agreement should focus on, is it should have a direct funding for at least some of the work that has to be done. And I know we're going to be competing with everybody, and this year with the budget deficit, I'm not sure what you're going to get, but the squeakiest wheel gets the most grease. So, we're small, but we really need to do this.
So the frustrating part of what you just said is that, we definitely need sidewalks. You're saying we're going to have to sacrifice sidewalks for roads.
Well, for example, Mike can talk to the sidewalks on Corn Neck Road, but how do you put sidewalks on Chapel Street? Those are the only 2 streets that were identified. Sidewalks on Chapel Street, where you've got the property right to the street. You're gonna have condemnations. What side of the road do we put it on? Chapel Street, in my experience, I don't think you can put sidewalks there. You've got the church, you've got the wetlands, you've got the hotel at the end, and then you have at the beginning of Dodge Street and all that area where Weldon Way comes in. It's too small. Mike, you can talk about Corn Neck Road.
Well, okay, so I'm just going to say about Chapel Street, though, I know it's small and I know it would be challenging, but we've also had a vehicular death on there of a pedestrian. So it's super problematic too.
We will put them before the council, and the council will make the decision which projects they want to go forward with. I understand the concern with sidewalk. We
Right.
have put quite a bit of sidewalks. When I first started, the children couldn't walk from the school downtown. Now they can walk all the way to New Harbor, with the
Right.
sidewalks that were put in with the project. So the town has made good progress on putting sidewalks in. If you want, Chapel Street, if you want to work on that, that's fine, but I think that ends up being a one-way street, in my opinion, if you're gonna do that.
Right.
That's a whole other issue. And that's a state road, so.
Mike, did you?
And we could also put more overhead lighting on Chapel Street, which was part of the problem with that accident. Because it can be very dark rather than sidewalks.
Did you have something, Mike?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Jim was saying, that on Chapel Street, there's really nowhere to put them. You have parking areas right there. You have driveways on that whole north side. The Corn Neck Road ones, they were The intention of those was to be on the west side of Corn Neck Road, the beachhead side between, let's say the gas station to Beach Avenue. But everyone walks on the other side of the road. So you'd be asking people to cross the road twice to get onto the sidewalk, or to get onto the sidewalk one time, and then to get off the sidewalk, they'd have to cross the road to get over the beach again. A few years back, we narrowed the lanes in that section to create more of a shoulder. So basically, there's not really a need for the sidewalks there, and those are in the STIP now. So if anything, we should switch them to somewhere else that's more productive in those two spots. But even before the sidewalks, I gotta go with Jim too, and we've got to do something about the roads.
And I just want to also talk about Corn Neck Road. Remember, you have a resiliency team that's going to be looking at the erosion in Corn Neck Road. So
Yeah.
I don't want to do things that may conflict with what they're coming up with.
Yes.
So let's work, together. I mean, this is a 5-year program. The sidewalks have been on there for, I think, over 10 years, and nothing has trickled down to the town.
It's a good point, Jim.
But I just don't want to put the sidewalks there and then come to find out that wasn't a good move with the money available.
You have what you need from us, Amy?
I do, thank you.
Great. Mona. Come aboard.
Hi. All right, so David made the suggestion that I could let you guys know what page number I'm on the financials when I'm talking about them. So I figured I would do that for you this evening. Okay, so we're just going to skip the summary page and kind of go over some highlights. Start
Thank
with
you.
building permits, and so we're going to go to page 3 of 26. We all know that building permit revenue varies greatly based on, there's many variables from month to month and from year to year. So right now we've collected 76,000 less than we have in prior years or in the prior year, but we know that's not an indicator of what it's going to look like at the end of the year. So
Yeah, how does that, is there a regular flow to that? In other words, do you see a surge in building permits in May?
well,
There's no rhyme or reason to it.
not that I can see, but I haven't done
That was
a
more-
big deep dive on
was
it.
just
I mean,
curious.
last year, we had 76,000 more. So
Yeah.
I think there's many variables. And then going down a little further, we have short-term rentals. We've collected $67,000. So that's moving along, and I'm sure there's a lot more to report for the month of January. Flip over to page 6 and just do a quick look at the state aid. Decided just noticing how the money comes in. So what's reported each month is what we receive from the state, and what the state is reporting is not necessarily representative of the business activity for that month. So I decided to take a look at it from a year-to-date perspective and compare that to last year to date in a grand total. So when I'm looking at the hotel tax for the year to date, comparing the 2 fiscal years, hotel tax decreased by 9%. And the cottage tax increased by 21%. And if you recall, the cottage tax is the one that is room resellers in addition to, I believe, like VRBO, Airbnb, that kind of thing, in addition to hotel room resellers.
You see the governor proposed applying a hotel tax to those, the full boat. Just
That would be good.
interesting.
And then as far for state, the state aid meals sales tax increased when I'm comparing again, just the year-to-date totals by 7.5%. So overall, it looks pretty good in my opinion.
Mhm.
Let's go to page 9. We can look at some expenses. The council asked me last month to kind of give them an idea of how the new staffing arrangement during the town manager's interim period was going to be funded. And when the arrangement was proposed to the council, I believe that was brought to them with kind of an explanation of how that would be funded. And the idea is that it was going to have a net zero impact to the budget that we see today. And so really what I think we want to look at is we can look at that second line, wages town manager. You can see we've already exceeded our budget line, and what's skewing that is the severance payout to the prior town manager. So it's not a realistic picture of what we're looking at for actual town manager wages. So in fact, 54% of the year-to-date actual is severance related.
Mhm.
If you take that out, we're right on track where we should be. Whoops. So I think that's the bigger question, is how is that going to be funded? Because that discussion has not been had, to my knowledge, about how that was going to be funded when it was implemented. So we're kind of looking at different ways in the budget where we're at right now. We're 6 months in. Look at different areas that we expect to see some under expenditures and what we are anticipating currently. Of course, things can always change. We're looking at like the road materials line has some excess in it. We were able to use some yeah, we have some different areas that we're able to use some encumbered funds that kind of will offset what we have to use this year. So we've got also the harbor's truck. We think we might have a little extra there, possibly building official compared to what we saw last year for totals, grant writer. And then depending on how the decision goes with the lobbyists, we may have some excess there as well. So we're going to continue to look and monitor, do some year-end projections as we keep moving forward and developing the budget. And that's how we're hoping to make up the difference. Another.
I'd asked you for that. Thank you.
Oh, yes, no problem. And another question was about contingency. That was asked last November or last month about what was making up that number. And it's basically three different items. There's the Highview Lane settlement with the Sewer Commission, the lightning strike at the communication center at the dispatch, and then the fire alarm monitoring upgrade that was required. If you need more details about that, I'm sure one of these gentlemen can give more detail to it. But I can say that the lightning strike, we've been told we're going to get an insurance reimbursement for
Right.
that. So hopefully we can offset that significantly.
Great.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Any questions for Mona? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Amy?
So we have I would say a little bit briefer town manager report. You have a lot of updates from the departments, but I would say in general, people are regrouping after the start of the new year with more of an eye towards summer and spring preparations, closing out old projects and starting new ones to get things ready. There's felt like a little bit of a shift. Now it's time to start. I would also say there are 3 areas where staffing needs, and this is not written in the report, are starting to rise to the surface. And so we'll be talking about those in future meetings, I would say. The first Mona alluded to a little bit, which is as part of the shift of all the interim positions, we are still down a body in finance. And that's really starting to be felt over there.
Sure.
They have people doing some temporary work and filling in and pitching in, but it's becoming a little bit of a strain. The second area is as we move in short-term rentals from all the registrations to now thinking about enforcement. And is this an opportunity to get our land use staff back to their regular programming, if you
Mm.
will? And what kind of contribution the town wants to see, or what kind of level of effort on the enforcement side, given the revenue we have in, and how are we going to pay for that enforcement side and that level of effort. So we'll talk about that more as well. And then the third is really something we talked about in the budget process last year, starting to reframe that again for the upcoming budget, and that's around alarm and communications officer work, particularly as we are deploying a new fire alarm monitoring system and talking about the radio repeater project as well. All those things, again, starting to rise up to the surface, and how are we going to staff those over the long term. So just identifying some things we may talk about in the future, but also happy to take any questions on the report itself.
Can I ask a question about that fire alarm monitoring? So I know that in the fire department now, the fire department members that respond to alarm calls get paid. Where is that money coming from? So if I have a building that I'm a repeat offender, my alarm just keeps going off and I don't bother to fix it. So the guys have to keep coming out and resetting my alarm. Do I have to pay anybody right now?
My understanding is that the town is not currently administering the sort of penalty provisions of the fire alarm monitoring ordinance. I do believe there are provisions that allow for that, but partly because of the system itself and the age of the old system and its behavior over recent years, that didn't feel appropriate to be enforcing in that way. I would expect that as we bring a new system online that is more reliable, that's something we can resurface again. To your first question, those payments are made from the town through the community support appropriation. There's a line there for fire alarm responding.
Okay, because there definitely seem to be a lot more of them. I mean, as somebody who has that fire alarm radio going off all the time at their house, it's incessant.
And that's
all
a
the time.
combination of actual alarms and also, there's a additional set of challenges within the dispatch center for trouble statuses and sort of the head end work. So the hope, I think, is that all of that begins to resolve as we transition to a new system, which isn't going to be a hard cutover, but a bringing both online, running simultaneously in a transition.
Okay.
But we're
the
still in,
tools are in place that if we have abuse, that the town can implement a fine system.
yes,
to it.
the
So we don't
tools
need
are
to
there.
Change an ordinance, it's in place already.
And I guess that was my other question. Is there somebody who can look at that alarm ordinance as this new system goes in to see if there need to be any changes in that? Because there is a whole penalty section, but I don't know how it impacts.
Our focus right now is on the deployment, so we
Yeah.
probably won't come back to the ordinance until that is up and running and we have the bandwidth to do that. We did make a minor change a couple months ago that actually allowed us to deploy the new system because the prior ordinance was actually so specific that
Right.
it dictated what we had to have in place. So we updated that, but we'll go back and revisit after we're fully functional.
And my only other question, if I could, is did we get a response from the state that it's okay for our audit to be out of time?
They didn't provide a written response, otherwise I would have shared it with the council. But we did have a meeting with them. We have another check-in in February, and so we are on target and they seem on board.
Well, since the news seems to cover all these cities and towns that are like years behind in their audits, I can't imagine that they're the
I
least
certainly,
bit
they didn't give us a count, but I certainly got the impression that there were more communities in the extension phase than not.
Okay.
And that was not just driven by the communities, but also the staffing on the audit firm side. There are crunches on both sides.
Great. Any other questions for Amy? All right. Can I have a motion to go back into closed session, please? Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mona. Don't leave, Paul. Um, so I was trying to decide in my mind, well, sort of whether we should change the order, but Bill's out now. We'll take care of that, and then Bill can come back in for the last two. Bill, we're gonna do the fast ferry one now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How many is there? Because the only thing we have to announce is that conversation and the vote that we took that you, yeah. Ready? Hello, everybody. Back into open session. Couple of matters from the closed session. Item number 2, just discuss an act regarding an an order and motion to reconsider regarding Rhode Island Fast Ferry Inc. A motion was made that the town take no action there. And that motion passed 3-1. The yes votes were Tristan Payne, Keith Stover, and Molly O'Neill. The no vote was Nancy Dodge. And just quickly on item number 4 regarding the performance of the interim town manager, it was a very good conversation. I think it's safe to say that everybody is pleased with the direction, the quality of the communications, the quality of the team building, et cetera. And we are going to stay the course. Can I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you all very much.